Audio Jungle.
What I'm going to cover in this demo session over here, admin and administration. Now let's get started. Before I talk about what is Amazon Web Services is all about, we would be going through what is cloud computing is all about. So let's say that, okay, so let us go ahead and talk about what is as you can see in this picture, we are able to figure out that this is a cloud where a cloud contains a lot of resources over here. Like for example, in my example over here, we are having a remote services, a database like a backup or disk readable, something like that, a virtual desktop application, as well as a web application which is being hosted. Now, basically, what is this cloud computing contains hardware as well as softwares together in order to provide the services for a user. Now, I'm going to talk very deeper into this particular cloud computing because Amazon Web Services is based on cloud computing over here. So let's get started more on to cloud computing. What is cloud computing is all about? In a definition, a cloud computing is use of service from hardware as well as software resources which is delivered by a network. When I say hardware, it is nothing but a servers, storage, cooling, as well as networking. And software, it itself says that it provides services by themselves. Now, after knowing what is cloud computing is all about, now let's get into a characteristics of a cloud computing. As I was been showing you the picture, a cloud computing provides you a delegation of overhead. What exactly I mean to say here is it tries to provide something called outsourcing. For example, let me consider the system example in this particular picture itself. Like I'm having something called remote services like a data center. So what happens here is this data center is being shared. It is being outsourced so that many organization or many uh, people who wants to make use of this data center, they can make use of it. That is what we say to be as outsourced. Same way, like this kind of data center, you can outsource your database, that is cloud database, or desktop applications, or web-based applications, and all. And today, you know that in a market, everything, including the data center or backup your data or virtual desktop applications or web applications, everything is being shifting to the cloud. That is what people used to say that today, if a system is slow, look into the cloud. That is one of the example I can give it over here about the cloud computing. Now let's go ahead. This is one of the characteristics we have been talked about. And because of this outsourcing, we're going to come across another characteristics here, such as modular as well as compartmentalized. What exactly modular in sense? A modular in sense, it is clearly mentioned that you can, as the generations grows, you can add up many resources into a cloud. For example, here again, let me go back to that picture. We see that there are four things here, but you can add many things as possible into this particular cloud computing. Suppose you want to insert one more data center or remote services, you can go ahead and add it up to the cloud. That is what we say to be as modular. Then moving further, because of this particular modular, we're going to come across something called to be as elastic. What is this elastic here is, there is a concept called dynamic allocation. When I say dynamic allocation, that is, for example, let us consider in the same picture a database. There is a backup. A database, initially I started with around one database, and I felt that particular database is not sufficient for our application or for a client. They want more than one. So what I can do here is I can just go ahead and add a few more database according to the client request. That is what we say it to be as elastic, that is dynamic allocation. So when you add up the resource, it tries to grow. When I At the same time, when I try to remove that particular database from that particular cloud, it tries to shrink. That is what the word called elastic comes into picture. Because of elastic, we're going to come across something called resilient. When I try to say resilient, it is like easy replacement. What I mean by easy replacement, as I was been talking about dynamic allocation, an easy replacement, that is, you can easily add up the resource, you can easily remove the resource. That is what we say it to be as resilient. And further, it is an illusion of infinite supply. That is, we cannot say that the cloud computing, we cannot restrict the cloud computing saying that you have to only supply only so much resources. You can have an infinite supply into the cloud over here. These are all the characteristics of a cloud computing. That is where today generation, many organizations are moving towards this particular cloud computing over here. Now saying that, let us go ahead and talk more onto comparing a cloud computing with an electrical utility over here. When I try to compare with an electrical utility, like let's consider a basic component of cloud computing as a service that is nothing but I can compare it with an electricity. Whereas this electricity is delivered by what? It is being delivered by a network that is a power grid. And it is having this further, the power grid is being delegation of a responsibility such as infrastructure, production, as well as maintenance. So this is how we're going to compare a cloud computing to be as electrical utility over here. Now knowing this, now let's understand the models of cloud computing service models over here. There are many models available which is designated with acronyms, but I would be concentrating more onto four primary service models which is available. So the four primary service models which is also found in Amazon Web Services over here in some form. And moreover, these are recognized by International Telecommunication Union. I give a small word like SNP to remember this particular four primary service model. The first letter in the word SNP, the S indicates service software as a service, the N indicates network as a service, I indicates infrastructure as a service, whereas P indicates platform as a service. Now, we're going to talk about each particular service in overview. So let's go ahead and talk about this particular service models over here. Now, I have given this particular picture for you to understand a relationship between your infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, as well as software as a service. Now, basically, the end users over here try to borrow a software which has been provided by SaaS, Whereas the application developers, like it might be a Java, .NET, or Python, or some other technology, they try to develop the application by a platform as a service over here. They make use of this particular service model. Whereas the network architect, make use of the IaaS over here. This is a value visibility to the end user. So you can see that when the end users, between them, there is an application developer as well as there is a network architectures coming into picture. Now this would be a relationship. I just want to talk about the relationship over here. The network architecture tries to help for PaaS also as well as for SaaS also over here. So that is what this particular diagram tries to talk to you. Now let's go ahead and talk each individual service models over here. So I'm going to talk the first one, that is a software as a service. Now as we know that the software as a service is being used by end users over here. Now let's understand in detail over here the application software which is installed and operated by cloud providers. So providers, that is the people who provides this particular software, try to manage the infrastructure as well as the platform, and here the end users are the one which makes use of the software. For example, you might have been come across something called Google Apps as well as Apple iCloud. Moreover, you might have been worked a Google Apps application in an Android device, whereas Apple iCloud in your Apple devices such as iPhone or iPad, something like that. So what you would have been done errors, you would have been borrowed. This apps provides many applications. You would have been borrowed and installed into your machines over there. So this is a good example for software as a service over here. Now let us go ahead and understand something related to network as a service over here. The network as a service, NAS, a short form for that is a NAS. It is a transport, it is having a transport capabilities, usually um, through VPN, that is a virtual private network, or bandwidth. And basically, it is not needed for cloud users. So that is where I just wanted to never mention this particular network as a service in this particular architecture over here. So now let us move further and try to talk about something related to infrastructure as a service, that is IaaS. It is the most basic model, and the computer itself, for an example, I can give it a computer itself acts like a service because the computer contains hardware as well as software where they provide many services over here. It is also considered as hosted virtual machine over here. It emulates, like for an example, it emulates individual computers and also uses computing resources without any physical computer over here. For example, virtual private servers. So today you might have been seen that when they talk about a server in organization, the server wouldn't be existing in an organization. They are talking something related to VPS, that is virtual private server, which has been available into a cloud. And now let's understand the last service over here by saying that it is a complete framework to host a client application, and it is a web solution it's a stack for it contains like operating system, a web applications, or database server, or some programming language execution. For example, you can have a Java, .NET, or Python, or PHP, or whatever it is. So basically saying that this infrastructure as a service can be packaged as well as configured as what as a platform as a service over here. For example, you can understand a PHP application server. If you have been worked with a PHP, it would have been good. Or you can even, if you're working through Java, you might have been come across something called JBoss or Tomcat. These are all some application server which is being provided by your platform as a service over here. So if you ask me a question, Vinod, this platform provides all the application server for us. Yes, all the application servers are available, so you can make use of those particular services over there. Now, once you have understood this, now let's go ahead and talk about a small review of what is cloud computing, what we have been learned here. Now, we understood that a cloud computing is nothing but services are delivered remotely over here. And moreover, we know that the complexity is hidden and management also would be taken care by cloud computing, and organizations which is making use of cloud computing do not worry about the complexity as well as management. And also it reduces the cost as well as overhead. That is, they ensure you saying that you need to pay the money for what you are using. That is where we try to reduce the cost over the cost as well as overhead, and it allows the industries to develop onto core product instead of it ensures that you need not manage the resources. The cloud computing in turn manage the resources. That is where it focus on developing the core product as much as possible. Now, this is all about the review of what is cloud computing is all about. Now, let us go ahead and look at what is Amazon Web Services is all about. So, as we know that an Amazon Web Services is a cloud computing platform which consists of web services which is provided by Amazon.com. There are several dozen services available in Amazon Web Services. Some are related to SLA. SLA is nothing but service level agreement. Some are beta version and some are unleashed to a public area. So it is up to you, it is up to your organization which kind of services which you try to make use of it. So let's look at a small architecture of an Amazon overview over here. So basically saying that this particular stack comes like the bottom one is like a global infrastructure, Amazon Web Services global infrastructure. Further, there is a foundation service. Further, there is a application platform services. Further, we can see that management as well as an administration. So you can see that your application would be residing on top of this particular stack. I mean to say the Amazon architecture. There are several architecture which is available in a documentation, but I am choosing this one because it makes really easy to understand all the services where Amazon tries to provide. Now let's go ahead. I'm going to talk more onto this particular global infrastructure. This infrastructure is being divided into zones, region, as well as location. Basically saying what? Basically saying that these are the zones. There are basically around 9 zones available, and regions, the zones are divided into regions, and regions are divided into locations, and in each location there is a physical devices which is being available, the resources which is available for an end user. That is what this global infrastructure tries to say. I'm going to discuss about this in brief later uh, in my course. Now let's talk more on to this foundation services. When I talk about Amazon Foundation Services, the Amazon Foundation Services are divided into four. As you can see that the first one is compute, second one is storage, the third one is database, and the fourth one is networking. These are the four foundational services, Amazon Foundation Services. Now the first one, we're going to talk about the compute Amazon Web Services Compute 1. The Compute Foundation Service is further divided into two. One is called Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. In short form, we say it to be as EC2, and another one is called to be as R2 scaling. Now, the Amazon Elastic Cloud Computing or EC2 are nothing but VPS. What do you mean by VPS? It is nothing but a virtual private server. That means for an end user, if your application wants to be deployed, you need not have a server in your place. It is already provided by Amazon Web Services as a virtual private server. And moreover, it also hosts for uh, it is an infrastructure, it is a IaaS ODA, that is infrastructure as a service. And due to this particular Amazon Elastic Cloud Computing, you come across auto scaling. What do you mean by auto scaling here? It tries to dynamically increase or decrease an Amazon EC2 instances ODA. That means you can add many virtual private servers or you can decrease more virtual private servers. That is the usage of compute foundation services. Now let's move further with something called as Amazon Foundation Service, the second one, that is nothing but a storage. When I try to talk about the storage is being divided into, there are three storage services which is available. Uh, One is called Amazon Simple Storage. Amazon Simple Storage, the short form we call it to be as S3, and another one is called Amazon Elastic Block Storage, that is EBS, and the third one is called Amazon Storage Gateway. Now let us talk about the first one over here, that is the storage. And Amazon Simple Storage, or a short form, I'm going to talk about S3. You can add any data in any format, like it might be a static content or it might be a dynamic content. It is having a capability to store from 1 byte to 5 terabyte into this particular Amazon storage service. And it is often used for what? It is often used for storing images, storing style sheet, as well as archives also. And moreover, it doesn't need what? It doesn't need the virtual private services over here. That is, it doesn't need VPS. That is, in general, I can say that EC2. So when we talk about this particular course, I'm going to try to use this particular Amazon simple storage service in order to store an image into our application over here. Now let's go ahead and talk about the second one. The second one is nothing but an Amazon EBS. EBS is nothing but Elastic Block Store. What does this Elastic Block Store tries to do? Now, what if the data it provides you something like persistent storage for EC2 instances over here. That means this particular EBS makes use of what? It makes use of this particular Amazon EC2 over here, EC2 instances, and it is often used for database as well as file system. So basically, if your data is like relational database, then you can uh, work with this particular storage. The last one is there, that is nothing but Amazon Storage Gateway. It connects to your local file servers to encrypt what? To encrypt this particular S3, and it also scalable storage, as well as it provides you something called to be as uh, backup backups I can talk about. So this is all about the storage. Now let's move further and talk about this particular database. As we knew that the database is further divided into four services over here, divided into four services. One is called Amazon Relational Database Service. We generally say it to be as the short form is RDS over here. So this is the Amazon RDS. It is a scalable relational database with auto patch as well as a backup. And moreover, as of now, it supports MySQL, Oracle, MySQL Server, etc. And suppose if your data is not a relational, then Amazon provides something called the Amazon DynamoDB. What is this DynamoDB? It is a scalable NoSQL database that is a flat data without no joins that is more faster than this particular relational database, and often used for what? It is often used for messaging as well as image metadata over here. Now, apart from that, and Amazon also provides you a simple DB which is managed by NoSQL for smaller data set, and it is also used for database. We're going to make use of this one Amazon Simple DB in our application for watermarking our simple application, which I'm going to show it later. Now let's go ahead and talk about another interesting database that is nothing but Elastic Cache. For example, as the name itself indicates that an Elastic Cache is a scalable in-memory caching, and it is a protocol compliant with memory cache inbuilt, and it also helpful for caching your database as well as lookups. Now after knowing this particular database, let's go further and try to talk about the last service on foundation service, that is nothing but networking. So the networking is also divided into four services over here, like virtual private cloud, load balancing, remote S3, as well as direct connect. So let's talk about each one. The virtual private cloud, it is used for launching your Amazon Web Services in a virtual network, and also you can have public or private subnet, and hardware, it provides a hardware to a VPN, virtual private networking. Then load balancing is there. It tries to distribute the traffic across your EC2 instances or EC2 servers, and also it can be used for fault tolerance. And the last one, that is nothing but Amazon Root S3 is there. That Amazon Root S3, it is a scalable domain name service, and it also helps you to what? It also helps you to direct network for proximity as well as speed. So that's it about this particular foundation service. So the last one is there, which is a direct connect. As the name itself indicates that this service is useful for connecting the VPS directly over here. So that's it about your foundational services. Then, because this is a demo session, I would be stopping it here. So further, I would be talking on to more onto this application platform services, management and administration services, etc. And thank you. See you.